David made his way through the bustling corridors of the interstellar conference station, his eyes wide with a mix of excitement and a hint of nervousness. It was his first major assignment as a human diplomat, and the gravity of the occasion wasn't lost on him. The station, a marvel of engineering orbiting a peaceful neutral star, was filled with representatives from various civilizations, each here to discuss and share their cultures in a spirit of peaceful cooperation. As he entered the main conference hall, a grand room with a transparent dome that offered a panoramic view of the starry expanse, David was momentarily caught up in the spectacle. The stars seemed to cast a gentle glow on the assembly, reflecting the diverse array of beings present. He soon spotted his contact, Leah, another human delegate with more experience in interstellar relations. She waved him over, her expression both reassuring and eager. "David, over here. I want you to meet someone very interesting," Leah called out as she stood beside a figure whose appearance was strikingly different from any human. David approached, his steps measured and his mind open. The alien, who introduced herself as Mira, had luminous skin that shimmered slightly under the hall's ambient light, and her eyes held a depth like the ocean. "It's a pleasure to meet you, David," Mira said, her voice melodic and her accent thick but charming. "Leah tells me you have a keen interest in galactic history." David nodded, extending his hand, which Mira took gently. "Yes, I do. I believe understanding our past can help us build a better future together." Mira smiled, her eyes twinkling with interest. "I couldn't agree more. My people hold archives of ancient celestial events. Perhaps you'd like to see them sometime." "I'd love that," David replied, genuinely intrigued. "There's so much we can learn from each other." As they walked together through the exhibit displays showcasing technological advancements and cultural artifacts, David and Mira shared their insights and perspectives. The conversation flowed smoothly from scholarly discussions to lighter topics, such as popular foods on their respective planets. "So, what's a typical dish on your planet?" David asked, as they paused before a holographic display of an intergalactic map. Mira described a dish made of a root vegetable native to her world, cooked in a way that brought out its natural sweetness. "It's quite simple, but nourishing." "What about you? What's a common meal for humans?" "Pizza might be a universal favorite back on Earth," David chuckled. "It comes in countless varieties, each reflecting the local culture and preferences." Mira laughed, a sound that reminded David of wind chimes. "I've read about pizza. It seems quite versatile." Their discussion was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system, calling all delegates to the main auditorium for the opening speeches. David and Mira made their way to the auditorium, their steps synchronized. As they settled into their seats, David felt a sense of anticipation. Meeting Mira had already expanded his view of the galaxy's diversity. He leaned over, whispering, "I think this is going to be an enlightening conference." Mira nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Yes, I believe so too. It's the beginning of many exciting discussions, I hope." As the lights dimmed and the first speaker took the stage, David felt a profound connection not just to Mira but to the entire assembly, united in their quest for knowledge and understanding. He realized that this conference was not just about policy and agreement, but about building bridges across the stars. Chapter 2: Language of the Heart. The next morning, David found himself at a workshop titled Linguistic Bridges, Understanding Through Language, which promised interactive sessions on the nuances of communication between different species. He was delighted to see that Mira was also attending, accompanied by her colleague, Torin, a fellow linguist from her planet with a keen interest in human languages. As they settled around a semicircular table equipped with translation devices, Mira introduced David to Torin. Torin has been looking forward to discussing human linguistic structures. He's especially interested in idiomatic expressions. Torin nodded, his voice carrying a formal tone. "Indeed, Mira has mentioned your proverbs and sayings. We find such expressions fascinating, as they often encapsulate much of a culture's philosophy." David smiled, eager to dive into the discussion. "Well, let's start with something simple. When in Rome, do as the Romans do." It's a way of advising people to adapt to the culture of the places they visit. Mira tilted her head, considering it. We have a similar saying, "As the river flows, so must the fish swim." The workshop leader, a seasoned linguist named Dr. Hensley, clapped his hands together. "Excellent examples. Let's use these sayings as a springboard to explore translation challenges. How do you retain the cultural nuances when you translate such phrases?" The group delved into a lively discussion, with participants sharing phrases from their own languages. David found himself fascinated by the alien expressions and the stories behind them. The session was not only about language, but also about sharing life's experiences and the wisdom they carried. As the workshop continued, Dr. Hensley introduced an exercise. Pair up with someone from another world. You'll teach each other a simple song from your culture. Think of it as a way to convey emotion beyond words. David and Mira paired up, and she began to teach him a soft melody in her language. The tune was soothing, and although the words were unfamiliar, the emotion behind them was clear. David felt a connection as he tried to mimic the sounds, causing Mira to giggle at his attempts. "Now your turn, David," Mira said, still chuckling. He chose a simple English song with clear, slow lyrics, hoping it would be easier for Mira to grasp. As he sang, Mira listened intently, her eyes focused on his lips as she tried to replicate the melody and words. Their laughter and shared frustrations over pronunciation broke any remaining ice between them. As they practiced, they stumbled through each other's languages, growing more comfortable with every mistake. After the session, Torin approached them, his expression thoughtful. "This exercise has been most enlightening. The music, much like the language, carries its spirit." David nodded in agreement. "It's more than just words or notes. It's about feeling, something we all understand, no matter where we come from." As the workshop concluded, participants exchanged contact information, promising to share more of their cultures. Mira, Torin, and David agreed to meet later for dinner to continue their discussions. Walking out of the room, David felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Not only had he learned much about alien languages, but he had also made new friends. The barrier of language, once daunting, now seemed like a bridge, connecting him to others in ways he had never anticipated. As they left the workshop, Mira touched David's arm gently. "Thank you for today. It was enlightening." David smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "The pleasure was all mine. I'm looking forward to learning more from you." Their shared smile as they walked toward the dining hall spoke volumes about the burgeoning connection between them, one that was quickly deepening with every shared word and laugh. Chapter 3: The Dance of Two Worlds. Later that evening, the conference hosted a formal intercultural ball, a gala event designed to showcase the diverse customs and traditional attire of various civilizations. David had chosen to wear a classic Earth-style tuxedo, while Mira appeared in a flowing gown that shimmered like her skin, reflecting the lights of the ballroom with a soft radiance. As David entered the grand ballroom, his eyes searched for Mira. He found her speaking with Torin and another delegate, a human linguist named Marco, who was known for his work on interspecies communication protocols. "David, you're just in time." Marco greeted him warmly, clapping him on the back. "We were discussing the intricacies of nonverbal cues in negotiations. Mira here has some fascinating insights." Mira turned her attention to David, her smile brightening. "I was just explaining how our expressions might seem subdued to humans. For us, a slight tilt of the head can express profound agreement." David nodded, intrigued. "That's quite subtle. We humans are often more overt with our gestures." As the conversation flowed, the music shifted to a slower, more rhythmic melody, inviting couples to the dance floor. Seizing the moment, David extended his hand to Mira. "May I have this dance?" Mira accepted with a nod, her hand resting lightly in his. As they moved to the dance floor, David was conscious of the differences in their physiology, but found a rhythm that worked for both of them. "You're a natural at this," Mira commented, as they found their pace. David laughed softly. "I've had a lot of practice at weddings back home. What about you? Do your people dance often?" "Not in the way humans do, but we have movements for ceremonial purposes," Mira explained. "They're more about flow and form, less about rhythm." As they danced, Marco and Torin joined other delegates, swirling around the floor in a dazzling display of colors and styles. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with laughter and the soft clinking of glasses. During a lull in the music, David and Mira stepped aside to catch their breath. "This is quite an evening," David remarked. "Seeing everyone together like this, it's easy to forget how different we are." Mira nodded, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Or perhaps it's a reminder of how those differences make events like this so beautiful." Their conversation deepened, turning to their aspirations for the future, both personal and professional. Mira expressed her hope for further collaboration between their worlds, while David shared his dream of facilitating deeper understanding among diverse species. Just then, an announcement came over the speakers, inviting delegates to view a presentation on the upcoming collaborative projects. David and Mira joined the gathering, their minds buzzing with ideas and possibilities. As they settled into seats near the front, David felt a gentle pressure on his arm. He looked over to see Mira leaning slightly towards him, a gesture he was learning to read as her showing comfort and trust. "The projects they're proposing sound promising," Mira whispered, her voice tinged with excitement. "Maybe we could work on something together." David smiled, his heart light. "I like that. It seems like the perfect way to blend our skills." The presentation continued, outlining potential initiatives that would require cooperation across species and disciplines. David and Mira listened intently, their minds already racing with ideas on how they could contribute. As the evening drew to a close, David and Mira agreed to meet the next day to sketch out some preliminary ideas for a joint project. Walking back to his quarters, David felt a sense of fulfillment. The evening had not only brought him closer to understanding Myra's world, but it also deepened his appreciation for the potential of their combined efforts. Their partnership, he realized, might just be the beginning of something significant, a collaboration that could bridge their worlds in ways they had yet to imagine. Chapter 4. Under the Moon of Mira. Several weeks had passed since the conference, and David had been invited to visit Myra's planet as part of a cultural exchange. The planet, known for its rich history and vibrant ecosystems, also hosted a celebrated night festival, timed with the blooming of nocturnal flowers that illuminated the landscape in a soft, natural glow. David arrived just as the festival was beginning, the air filled with sweet fragrances and the sounds of traditional music. Mira was there to greet him, her excitement palpable as she introduced him to her colleague, Jalen, who specialized in ecological preservation. "David, this is Jalen. He's been instrumental in organizing tonight's festival," Mira explained as they shook hands. "Nice to meet you, Jalen." "Mira has told me so much about your work," David said, genuinely interested. Jalen smiled broadly. "I hope you find our festival enlightening. It's a celebration of our planet's natural beauty, something we're very proud of." As they walked through the festival grounds, Jalen pointed out various exhibits and installations that showcase the planet's biodiversity. David was particularly struck by the glowing flowers, their bioluminescence casting a serene light over the festival. "These are remarkable," David commented, bending closer to examine one. "I've never seen anything like them." Mira watched his fascination with a smile. "They're unique to our planet. The light they emit is actually a form of communication between the plants." Intrigued, David listened as Jalen elaborated on the scientific aspects, explaining how the plant's luminescence affected the behavior of local wildlife. The conversation shifted seamlessly from science to the philosophical implications of interspecies communication, a topic David found particularly fascinating. As the night progressed, they enjoyed traditional dishes and watched performances of dance and music that told stories of the planet's history and culture. Mira and David took a moment to step away from the crowd, finding a quiet spot to talk. "Mira, this festival is incredible. The way your people integrate science and culture. It's inspiring," David said, his tone reflective. Mira nodded, her gaze following the movement of the lights. "We believe that understanding our environment is key to respecting it. It's similar to how we are trying to understand each other." David agreed, feeling a deep connection to Myra's words. "It's the same with humans. We're always exploring, trying to learn more about our universe and ourselves. Events like this make me hopeful about what we can achieve together." Their conversation turned personal as they shared stories of their childhoods, their families, and their aspirations. David was struck by the parallels in their stories, despite the vast differences in their worlds. "Isn't it something?" Mira mused. "How two people from such different places can find so much in common. It's more than something. It's everything," David responded, his voice low. They returned to the festival, joining Jalen at a viewing area for the night's highlight, a dance that mimicked the movements of the planets in their solar system. The dancers, adorned in reflective materials, moved with grace and precision, their choreography a stunning representation of celestial mechanics. After the dance, Jalen excused himself, leaving David and Mira to wander through the festival. As the night drew to a close, David felt a profound sense of peace and connection, not just to Mira but to her world as well. Before parting, They agreed to continue their discussions, planning to collaborate on environmental and cultural exchange projects. As David left the festival, he looked back at Mira, who was still watching him. Their eyes met, and they shared a smile that held promises of future meetings and shared endeavors. Walking away, David felt changed, his mind full of new ideas, and his heart open to the possibilities that lay ahead. The festival under the moon had not only shown him the beauty of Myra's planet, but it also deepened his appreciation for the shared goals and dreams that connected them across the cosmos. Chapter 5: The Touch of Understanding. David returned to the space station with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep curiosity about Myra's world. They had arranged to meet in one of the station's botanical gardens, a serene spot filled with species from various planets, creating a tranquil and somewhat familiar environment for their discussions. As David approached the designated garden dome, he saw Mira already there, talking with another human delegate, Alex, who specialized in botanical studies and was interested in the bioluminescent plants David had seen on Myra's planet. "David, you made it!" Mira exclaimed, her face lighting up as he walked over. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," David replied, shaking Alex's hand. "Alex, good to see you again." "Likewise, David. Mira was just telling me about your festival." "Sounds like it was quite the event," Alex said, his interest evident. "It was incredible," David affirmed. "The way the plants communicate through light, it's something we should look into for our environmental projects here." Alex nodded enthusiastically. "I agree. Mira, perhaps you could help us get some samples. We could study their properties and maybe replicate the effect here." Mira was pleased. "I'd be happy to assist. Collaboration is exactly what we need." As Alex excused himself to attend another meeting, Mira and David continued their walk through the garden. The path wound through a variety of landscapes, each designed to mimic different planetary environments. David stopped in front of a small waterfall, watching the water cascade over exotic plants. "Mira, I've been thinking about our projects. There's so much potential for integrating our technologies." Mira joined him by the water, her reflection mingling with his in the pool below. "I've been thinking the same. Our approaches are different, but I believe that's a strength, not a weakness." Their discussion turned to specifics, how to combine human engineering with the natural adaptations of Myra's planet. As they talked, they found themselves delving into deeper, more personal territory. "Mira, I've noticed that since I've returned, I see things differently. There's a richness and diversity in blending our perspectives," David confessed, watching her closely. Myra's expression softened. "I feel it too. Learning from you, understanding more about humans, it's changed how I view the universe." They reached a bench under a flowering tree whose petals drifted down around them. Sitting down, their conversation paused as they took in the peaceful scene. David turned to Mira, his voice gentle. "It's more than just professional, isn't it? Our talks, this project, it feels like we're building something personal as well." Mira met his gaze, her eyes clear and steady. "Yes, it is personal. I find myself looking forward to our meetings not just for the work but for the connection. It's something I haven't felt before." Encouraged by her response, David reached out, his hand brushing hers. The touch was tentative at first but grew more confident as she didn't pull away. Instead, she welcomed his hand, her fingers entwining with his. "It's new for me too," David admitted, "but it feels right, like a natural progression of our partnership." They sat in silence for a moment, the soft rustle of the leaves and the gentle fall of petals around them. The garden, a blend of elements from across the galaxy, mirrored their growing relationship, a harmonious blend of different worlds. As they stood to leave, their hands still joined, David felt a sense of anticipation about the future. "Mira, whatever comes of our projects, I hope this continues." Mira squeezed his hand, her smile warm and reassuring. "I hope so too, David." They left the garden together, their steps in sync, both aware that their relationship was evolving, becoming something profound and unexpected. The garden had been a fitting backdrop for their admission, a reminder of how diverse elements could come together to create something beautiful and enduring. Chapter 6: Echoes of the Heart. After their heartfelt conversation in the garden, David and Mira found themselves navigating the complexities of a deepening relationship across light years. Their daily routines were punctuated by transmissions that bridged the vast distance between David's space station and Myra's home planet. One evening, David sat in his quarters, adjusting the communication device to minimize the delay in their upcoming video call. As the screen flickered to life, Myra's face appeared, her smile as reassuring as ever. "David, it's good to see you," Mira greeted, her voice carrying a hint of excitement. "Likewise, Mira. I've been looking forward to our chat all day," David replied, his heart lightening at her sight. "I wanted to discuss our joint project proposal," Mira started, but her words trailed off as she noticed the model spaceship on David's desk, a small project he'd been working on in his spare time. "Oh, what's that you're building?" David picked up the model, his face brightening. "It's a replica of the first human spacecraft to successfully navigate through a wormhole. I thought it might inspire us." Mira laughed, delighted. "That's wonderful. It reminds me of a similar craft from my planet's history. Perhaps we should include a historical exhibit in our project." Their conversation seamlessly shifted from personal anecdotes to their professional collaboration, discussing potential exhibits and educational programs that would highlight both human and alien achievements in space exploration. As they outlined their ideas, David felt a surge of creativity. "What if we set up an interactive display where visitors can simulate a space journey using both human and your technology?" Mira clapped her hands together, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I love that idea. It would be a tangible way to demonstrate our collaboration." They spent the next hour brainstorming, their dialogue rich with excitement of shared goals. As the call neared its end, David hesitated, not wanting the connection to break. "Mira, these conversations, I miss them when we end our calls. It's like a part of me stays with you." Myra's expression softened, mirroring his sentiment. "I feel the same, David. It's as if these calls are the highlights of my days." As they signed off, David sat back, reflecting on their conversation. The emotional distance seemed to shrink with each call, making the physical distance more bearable. The following weeks were a test of their patience and dedication. Despite the physical separation, their project progressed, fueled by their regular communications and the strong bond they had formed. They sent each other updates, ideas, and occasional gifts, small tokens that traveled across space to bring them closer. One day, David received a package from Mira containing a piece of artwork from her planet. It was a painting that depicted the universe as seen from her world, vibrant and teeming with colors unseen on Earth. Touched by the gesture, David immediately called her. "Mira, the painting is breathtaking." "Thank you," he said, the sincerity in his voice clear. Myra's voice warmed. "I'm glad you like it. I wanted you to have a part of my world with you." Their discussion veered into plans for meeting again, possibly on a neutral planet where their project could be showcased. The excitement of seeing each other in person again added a new layer of anticipation to their efforts. As they ended the call, David looked at the painting. It was not just a depiction of the universe. It was a symbol of their growing relationship, vibrant, mysterious, and full of potential. Despite the distance, their bond was a vivid echo of their shared dreams and hopes, resonating across the cosmos, drawing them inexorably closer. Chapter 7: The Union. As the day of their reunion approached, David and Myra's anticipation grew. They had chosen a neutral space station that was hosting an intergalactic cultural exhibition, a perfect backdrop for their collaborative project and a chance to meet after months of separation. David arrived at the station a day early, nervous and excited. He checked into his quarters and then went to oversee the final setup of their exhibition booth. The interactive displays they had designed were already attracting attention from early visitors, and David felt a surge of pride. He was adjusting the last of the displays when he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw Mira, radiant as ever, her eyes shining with joy. "David," she exclaimed, stepping forward to embrace him. "Mira, it's so good to see you," David replied, holding her close. The familiar scent of her perfume, a subtle reminder of their last meeting, filled him with warmth. They stepped back, looking at each other with smiles that spoke volumes. "You look great," David added, his heart beating faster. "You too," Mira replied. "I've missed this." They spent the rest of the day together, making final adjustments to the exhibition and walking through other displays. Their easy camaraderie was noticed by other attendees, drawing smiles and occasional comments about the evident bond between them. As evening approached, they decided to grab dinner at the station's restaurant. Over dinner, they discussed the days ahead, their project, and personal updates. The conversation flowed smoothly, but there was an undercurrent of unspoken words, a depth of feeling neither had fully expressed yet. David finally broke the silence that had settled between them. "Mira, being here with you, it makes me realize how much you've come to mean to me. These past months, our conversations, they've been the highlight of my days." Mira reached across the table, taking his hand. David, I feel the same. I was nervous about today, about what it would be like to see you again. But now that I'm here, it all feels right. Encouraged by her words, David squeezed her hand gently. I've been thinking, Mira. Once this exhibition is over, maybe we shouldn't wait so long to see each other. Maybe we should look for ways to work closer, or at least visit more often. Mira nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I like that. I want that. Their meal continued with plans and dreams, weaving their aspirations together with every word. After dinner, they took a walk along the viewing deck, watching the stars. Mira, look at that constellation, David pointed out. It's visible from Earth as well. My father used to show it to me when I was a child. He'd tell me stories of the heroes and creatures it represented. Mira listened intently, then shared a tale from her own world about the same stars, a story of love and longing that spanned the heavens. It's amazing, David said after a pause, how stars can hold so many stories, so many meanings from different worlds. Yes, Mira agreed, and now they hold our story too. They stood in silence, each lost in thoughts of futures together. As the station orbited slowly, the stars seemed to dance, mirroring their own joy. Finally, David turned to Mira. From different worlds, one love, he murmured, echoing the sentiment that had brought them together. From different worlds, one love, Mira repeated, leaning in to kiss him softly. That night, they returned to David's quarters, where they celebrated their reunion. Their love, a union of hearts and minds, was expressed with tenderness and passion, a coming together that felt as inevitable as the orbit of planets around a star. In the soft glow of the morning, with the universe stretched out before them, David and Mira lay together, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by love and a shared vision for the future. Chapter 8, From Different Worlds, One Love. The intergalactic exhibition had been a success. David and Mira's collaborative project, an interactive display showcasing the union of their species' technological advancements, had drawn widespread acclaim. Delegates from countless worlds praised their work as a model for what peaceful cooperation could achieve. As the exhibition wound down, David and Mira were approached by a representative from the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program. The man, a tall figure named Elric with a deep voice and a friendly demeanor, extended a formal invitation. David, Mira, he began, the Council has reviewed your work and would like to sponsor the establishment of a permanent collaborative research center. We believe your partnership represents the ideal model for future interspecies endeavors. Mira glanced at David, her expression a mix of surprise and delight. That's an incredible opportunity, she said, but it's a significant commitment. David nodded. It is, but it's also exactly what we've been working toward. A chance to make something lasting, something that benefits everyone. Elric smiled. I'll leave you both to discuss it, but I hope you'll consider. The Council sees great potential in your partnership. Once Elric left, David and Mira found a quiet corner to talk. They sat facing each other, the excitement and gravity of the offer hanging in the air. What do you think, Mira? David asked, his voice steady but hopeful. Mira hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of her cup. It's everything we've been working toward. But this would mean a long-term commitment, living and working in the same place. Are we ready for that? David leaned forward, his hands resting on the table. Mira, these past months, every step of this journey have made it clear to me that I want to be where you are. If that means building this center together, then I'm all in. Mira's expression softened, her uncertainty giving way to a warm smile. David, I feel the same. Let's do it. Let's build something that brings our worlds even closer. With their decision made, the next weeks were a whirlwind of activity. They worked closely with the Council to secure resources, recruit a diverse team, and plan the center's location, a vibrant planet on the border of human and Mira's territories. The day the center opened was marked by a grand ceremony attended by dignitaries, scientists, and artists from across the galaxy. David and Mira stood side by side on the stage, their collaboration now a symbol of unity and progress. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Mira and David took a moment to walk through the center's sprawling gardens, designed to feature flora from every participating planet. The air was filled with the mingled scents of earth roses and Mira's bioluminescent blossoms. It's hard to believe we're here, Mira said, her voice tinged with awe. David nodded, his gaze taking in the vibrant scene. It's everything we dreamed of and more. They stopped by a fountain where holographic projections of stars danced above the water's surface. David turned to Mira, his expression thoughtful. You know, when we first met, I didn't think we'd end up here. But now it feels like this was always meant to be, he said, his voice soft. Mira smiled, reaching for his hand. It does. From different worlds, one love and one purpose. David squeezed her hand gently, his heart full. Together, we've built something that will last, something that will inspire others to see beyond their differences. As they stood there, surrounded by the beauty of their shared creation, the future stretched out before them, a future not just of love, but of shared dreams and endless possibilities. In that moment, the stars seemed closer, their light reflecting the unity and connection that David and Mira had worked so hard to achieve. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it together, ready for whatever lay ahead.